think the second zone has air. Yeah, might be a couple buckets. Alright, so we got this York. It's model number PVCG60ANI-TS. See, it was manufactured in 2012. Client called me out because this little pink bin they've had underneath the boiler now for 2 weeks has been filling up very so slightly with water. So you can see we have here our 30 psi relief valve has been dripping. I've already been here getting everything ready before I started recording, but I did determine that the expansion tank was completely full and that needs to get replaced. We have an indirect water heater on the system here, so I also isolated the indirect and threw my gauge on just to make sure that this pressure doesn't climb as I'm working, just to make sure that, you know, we don't have a crossover and need to have this indirect replaced. I used to put in a lot of these heat flows and I do like them a lot, but so far so good with that. You know, we've been just below 10 pounds, and which is low, but it's not climbing, which is good. So I'm just getting the boiler drained down right now so we can get the expansion tank and the relief valve replaced. And then what we're going to do is, this client does have a maintenance agreement with us. They signed up for it recently when we did an ACIQ install for them. So I'm already here, and I'm here way earlier than the scheduled appointment time, and my day is actually pretty open, which is funny to say. I know Daniel will think that's funny. So we'll do the maintenance visit as well. Might as well just wipe it down, vacuum it, clean it off, get it up and running, check everything, make sure everything's working properly, you know, because it is the beginning of August, and before you know it, in the next month or two, they will have the system up and running. So we'll go through all that as well. I'm going to go empty this bucket and we'll get to disassembly. Door open. Scared the crap out of me. I'm like, what's bumping me? I knew that was gonna happen. That should be good enough. I'm gonna get this new one prepped. Get this new one prepped so that this way we could swap it out in a couple seconds. We got the Wolverine brass, their version of an X-Trawl 30. It's in the 8075-3. It's raining like crazy today. We haven't had rain like this in a while. 3, 4. I'll just set that to the side for now because we will need it for the relief valve. Okay. Beautiful. Let me grab my Knipex Cobras, my favorite. And there's really no good way of doing this without something getting wet. So let's figure out some form of protection here for our transformer. Okay. Made use of a plastic bag. Even though we pumped down that old expansion tank, this one, the old one, was still relatively heavy. It's sometimes impossible to get all the water out of them. Yeah, it's safe to say that everything in regards to this heating system is original. It's when it was installed in 2012 or 2013. Because the client has not had any type of annual service or preventative maintenance or anything done. You know, they purchased the home and moved in around 2013. So this is the first time someone's actually touching it and servicing it. So that's why I figured I'm already here. No sense in coming all the way back up this way for a maintenance visit in the future. Might as well just do it now. Get it over with. Alright. The next thing is going to be replacing this 30-pound relief valve. Which, do I need water here anymore? No. That's good. The issue is getting this puppy off of here. I just have to cut it and then slip a coupling on there. I know it'd be nice to put a union, but it is what it is. Alright, let's work on getting this out. Yeah, so while I'm doing this, might as well do a little story time with James. So the reason I'm checking the heating zone of the indirect is obviously because we could have a crossover, right? Our indirect water heater has a tank with a coil wrapped around it. So you have two separate forms, not forms, but two separate types of water inside an indirect. You have your heating water and you have your domestic water, right? Your domestic water is at your street pressure and your heating water is at your low pressure, whatever your heating system is set to. And over time you can develop a leak in the coil where you get a crossover of your domestic into your heating side, right? Because high pressure always wants to go to low pressure. So the reason I'm bringing this up, let's see if I can get this to move a bit so I can turn this more. The reason I'm bringing this up is because when I first got into service plumbing and learning about hydronics and the way things work, I went on a call for a 30 psi relief valve on a boiler leaking, and the client did have a bad expansion tank. So I wasn't wrong in the sense of replacing the expansion tank and replacing the relief valve. But after I replaced them and I put pressure back into the system and I started opening all the zones back up and all that fun stuff, the relief valve started leaking again. So I was like, I was like, maybe it's my pressure reducing boiler feed valve. You know, because those valves, right, like that Takeo right there, they don't have water constantly flowing through them. They very rarely have water flowing through them. They're almost like a dead end. So over time you get a buildup of corrosion and stuff. So when the time comes and the valve does need to open, it opens, but then it lets all that gunk get stuck in the valve and then it won't close. So I was like, okay, I need to replace the feed valve as well. So I replaced the feed valve, which did have some stuff inside of it. And when I went to refilling the system and purging and getting everything back out and firing it up, go figure, yet again, the relief valve started leaking. So I called my boss at the time. His name was Guy. He was a fantastic plumber. And he asked me, is there an indirect on the heating system? I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay. He's like, can you isolate the indirect? I'm like, yeah, there's valves on the supply and the return. He's like, all right. He's like, go ahead and isolate them. And he's like, are you able to put pressure gauge on the isolated zone? You know, separated from the boiler, like what we have here. So I did that. And wouldn't you know, the pressure gauge started climbing and climbing. And then it went above 30 and then above 40. And he's like, we need to replace the indirect. So I could tell you that the client was not happy. Now, granted, the other components did need to be replaced, right? Once a relief valve on a boiler starts leaking, you should just consider replacing it, because chances are it's had a lot of debris sitting in it over the years and it's never going to close properly. So that should be done. And the expansion tank obviously failed, so that needed to be done. But I was just chasing the wrong cat up a tree and not thinking properly because I didn't know any better. But now I do. So anytime I come across a hydronic boiler that has an indirect water heater attached to it, I try to always isolate the zone, confirm that it's good. Sometimes it doesn't show right away. Sometimes it might take a bit for it to actually shoot up, depending on the size of the leak on the coil. Right? I had one recently that the second I shut the zone, my pressure gauge shot up like crazy. So it's not like an immediate, you know, result. I'm gonna have to cut this down a little bit shorter. So yeah, always check, always be observant, and pay attention. And also replace your cutting blades, because look what happened to this one. So annoyed. So right now I'm just putting pressure back in the system. This air scoop is supposed to have a certain amount of distance. I can't remember this specific number. I'll have to ask Mike or Daniel. But I'm pretty sure this air scoop is supposed to be a certain amount away from an elbow for it to fully work properly. Let's see, our pressure is back up to about 15 pounds. So our tridicator gauge is working properly, because when I drained the system, it did go down to 0. Alright, we're going to put some stuff away, and we will begin our cleaning process, because I don't want to make this hot again and then pull the whole thing apart. So let's tidy up a little bit, and let's move on to the next step. Now, one way you can tell that this was never maintenanced is that the cover plate for the burner chamber still has its shipping screw inside of it. Usually an indication that nobody's ever opened it. Now, how am I going to get that screw out is $1 million question. It's pretty tight in there. Is the pilot tube in? Right in my way. Come on. There we go. Yeah. Almost there. And you can tell on these pieces of equipment are located in the laundry room like this. You get literally covered in dryer lint, which is not a good thing. So, if anything, it's even more vital that this gets done. This is the screw I was talking about. Yeah. And it came loose, which is amazing, because it doesn't always. Okay. Just pop these off of our rollout. Okay, write this down real quick. Take a look at our rollout. Looks good. No signs of charring or anything like that. And yeah, you can see it's pretty dirty in there. Look at that. Sheesh. Okay. Kind of have to do this at an angle. So it's pretty dusty in there. The refractory looks like it's in good condition, so that's not bad. Let's just take a look real quick up the boiler. Just take a peek at it and see how everything looks. You can see straight through it though. Alright, that's good. I don't see any obvious signs of issues. Let's just check our igniter. Maybe we'll pull that one out just to give it a quick cleaning, and then we could vacuum the rest of it off. So let me get started on that. Yeah, whoever designed this where the pilot tubing comes up behind the gas valve is a ding-dong, because it makes it very difficult to pull this whole assembly out, which I'm not going to tear the whole thing apart just so I could pull it out. I just loosened it up so that this way I could at least gain access to cleaning it up a bit, which I was able to wipe that off. And also the 7/16 pilot tubing going into the gas valve was insanely tight. This was starting to round it off, so I used my smooth jaw Knipex, and was able to break it loose and then use the 7/16 to finish it off. But yeah, so I'm just cleaning it in place here. I'm going to put it back and then vacuum out the rest of this chamber, and then we'll start lubricating and wiping down each of these burner tubes and getting everything put back in. And then I just want to vacuum and dust off the entire jacket. Just want to make sure that the igniter is decent. That looks a lot better than it did. Alright, let me put this back, and I show you some clips of vacuuming, but I'm sure you guys don't want to listen to that. Got all the burner tubes back in. Night and day difference. Just getting our cover plate wiped down one more time. I'll tell you, so the family and I went on Saturday to the Jones Beach Theater to go to the Kids Bop concert, because my kids Do you enjoy Kids Bop and their music? I'll tell you, what a business they have going on there, right? I was reading up on it afterwards because, you know me, I'm always curious. By the way, I'm not putting this shipping screw back in because it's unneeded, but it would be nice if I pre-plugged the wiring for our rollout switch. I'm going to do it this way so I can just tuck it back in afterwards. So, the kids that perform at these Kids Bop concerts, right, they make a flat rate salary that goes into a fund, a trust that, you know, they can't touch until they're an adult. You know, that's to help prevent their parents from... Which one of these is not... There we go. Keeps their parents from screwing them over. And so... But, like, you know, Kids Bop pays for their travel, their expenses, their housing, eating, all that stuff while they're on tour. But what the real kicker is that, you know, you can't go to a concert and not get souvenirs and stuff, right? So my son wanted to get a shirt, my daughter wanted to get one of their plushie things. So the t-shirts were $45 and the plushies were also $45. So I spent $90 on 2 items that probably cost them like $3 to make. And I'm like, wow. Like, not only are they paying these kids, right, these little artists, a flat rate to perform, they're also getting the ticket sales from the venue, which, you know, we sat up high because it's Jones Beach and it's Kids Bop. We don't need to be sitting, like, down at the stage. But, you know, some of the tickets were in the $300-$400 range if you're sitting up close. Or Jones Beach has, like, table seating inside the venue. And then they're making all this money off merchandise. I can only imagine how much money they bring in off merchandise. Like, okay, you're paying the staff however much money to sell the merchandise. And the kicker too is when I paid for the merchandise, at the end it asked if I wanted to leave a tip. And I'm like, why would I leave a tip to some kid that just brought me a t-shirt and a plushie? I thought it was hilarious. And the actual concession stands weren't bad though. Like, we got this giant lemonade, a couple things of candy, I think a pretzel, I forgot what else. And it was like $25. And I was like, oh, that's not bad. You know, my wife and I don't drink alcohol, so it's not like we're spending $15 on a beer or something like that. But yeah, I just thought, I'm like, wow, what a business model. And the kicker is that Kids Bop does not have to pay royalties to these children because they're not the original artists, right? They're all remakes of popular pop songs on the radio. So the original artist gets, you know, a royalty for their song being used. I was just like reading up more on it. I was just like, wow, this is... Like, let me vacuum this. I'm like, this is crazy. But we're almost done. Just going to do a final wipe down. We'll get this up and running, combustion analysis, and let's see you later. Okay. I've been letting my testo charge. It's at that much. That whole maintenance where I was cleaning and wiping everything down, I was charging the testo, and it's only gotten that far. It's because I was using it on Friday on a lock-in bar where this was like my 4th time back to this lock-in bar, and it wasn't my fault. It was just because they keep saying something else is wrong, something else is wrong. So anyway, long story short, I replaced the wire harness for the unit, and upon doing so, the unit kept going on flame lockout, Reason being is because the fan inducer was running full blast at 100% for however long. So the boiler needed to be recalibrated. Oh, I brought my zip ties upstairs. Alright. So anyway, I was on the phone with them setting up the the combustion for like over an hour. So it was just draining the battery, and I was getting nervous because at one point my testo was like, hey, the battery's low. I'm like, great. Do that, and then we could do one for water main as well. Main water. Okay, that's that, that's that, that's that. Alright, I'll get zip ties. Let me take my gauge back. This has not shot up at all. Fantastic. See, I notoriously leave these connected to whatever I'm servicing. Let me just get some of this water off the floor. And let's set up for our combustion. Okay. Got some good combustion readings. Obviously there's no draft analysis because this is fan induced, but what I am noticing is we're airbound. So shut that down. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna go get my bucket and my hose and just purge the 3 zones that are here, just to make sure that everything is good and 100%. Okay. Trying to minimize trips to the truck right now because it's literally downpouring. It's been all morning. Keep getting all these flash flood warnings, all this fun stuff. Just close this up because this is fan induced. At least now we have a test port for the future. Okay, let's get a bucket and a hose. Okay, let's see. I just did a little quarter bucket. Let's see. Let's see. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oof, that's toasty. We'll do the other 2 zones. So funny enough, my first service company I worked for, you know, if we were like doing like just like a visit for whatever, like plumbing visit, boiler visit, you know, whatever it was, if we saw that someone had an air scoop, we would automatically quote them for installation of a spiral vent. Nobody ever wanted to do it. You know, because it was whatever the cost of the valve was, plus the labor, all that fun stuff. And a lot of people just felt it was unnecessary. And it wasn't until we had clients that would have air problems, like let's say every fall we would come out to their house and purge air from the zones, that they were like, all right, I don't feel like doing this visit with you guys anymore. I'd rather just invest in getting a spiral vent. Let's see if I can get this on here. I want to get it on so that it stays on the pipe. But yeah, so it was like one of those things that, you know, we would try to make people aware of. And most of the time they could care less unless it was a reoccurring issue. Let's see. Yeah, now we got water moving. Oh, it was. The boiler hasn't fired yet. Let's see. Let's give it a little bit more. Let's see how that does. Let's see how she does. Come on, Cirky. Move that water. There she goes. Yeah, you could hear the air. Oh, now it's pushing through. Oh, that got hot quick. Let's see, did our temperature drop? It is dropping now. Okay, good. All right, we'll hit these other two zones. And now we shouldn't need to be back. We should not need to be back in the fall. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. I think the second zone has air. Yeah, might be a couple buckets. Let's go Patriots! It's almost football season. Preseason's about to start soon. Very excited. I usually host a fantasy football team or league. I'm the commissioner for it. I don't know if I have it in me this year. Trying to organize a group of adult men to coordinate and have a specific time to set up a draft, and then also just dealing with everybody's crap throughout the season and trying to collect money from them. I don't know. We'll see. Either way, I'm excited for the football season. We'll see. I might just do a random fantasy league this year just to get it out of my system. But anyway, I am actually leaving the client's house. So I went back. Long story short is this. I finished up, drove, 45 minutes back to the shop. I got back there. I was just doing some stuff, some odds and ends. And he called me and he was like, hey, he's like, there's actually another leak on the boiler. Do you mind coming back? And I'm like, no, of course, I'll swing back. So drove all the way back up to him, and that quarter turn boiler drain that I was using to purge the indirect heating zone was leaking from the handle, and those quarter turn valves don't have a packing on them, unfortunately. So I shut the heating zone down, I unswept the old drain, I pressed on a female adapter and then screwed in a new quarter turn drain, and made sure everything was good and 100%. He was super happy. Shout out if you're watching this. And yeah, we're good to go. So it's a little past 3 o'clock. I'm on my way back to the office. I should be there in about half an hour. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Catch you guys in the next one.